Hello, I'm Coach PJ Bishop, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to Out of the Park Baseball 25. It's out. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. This means baseball is just right around the corner, and we finally have the new game to play with. As you can see, I'm fired up, loaded, and ready to go. It's technically opening day, even though two games have already been played, or two teams have been played, and that's the Dodgers and Padres. But for the rest of the league, opening day really isn't until March 28th, and that's where we are. And I'm fired up as the New York Mets. I picked them because they do have a new general manager, and they do have a new manager. And so I'm the GM and manager of the New York Mets after their disappointing season. Despite their high payroll, one of the highest, if not the highest in all of baseball, they ended up having a losing record and quite a disappointing year. Considering that I think that some people had them as possible World Series contenders. But anyway, let's go over the settings and see what I changed. I'll tell you what I changed. Some are for me, and some are for more immersion and realism. Here, I changed nothing. I changed some things here for myself because my laptop is crappy. As always, I do change my injury mode to high realistic modern day. For both short and long term, I suggest you do the same if you want a more realistic feel to your season. It does require more micromanaging, as guys will be getting hurt, obviously, more often. And you'll have to constantly shuffle your IL. You'll probably be calling up and sending down guys all season. But that's how it goes in real life, too. So you're playing a micromanaging game, so you might as well get used to that. I mean, if you don't like that, then you can leave it as is. Now, I also have injury delayed on. I do like that part because, as we can see with Garrett Cole currently flying out to, was it San Diego or California somewhere, to get his elbow checked out. So they're not quite sure what's wrong with him. So technically his injury is delayed. They know he's hurt. They might be shutting him down, but they don't know for what, for how long. So that's what I do with my injuries. I like them to be realistic, and it gives my roster more turnover. It lets me see players that maybe I wouldn't have seen. That's that. Once again, I unchecked the use reputation system because I haven't read anywhere or seen anything that this part would be fixed, where you don't lose because you didn't accept the trade. Because the AI is notorious for sending horrible trades that make no sense to you, yet you still get punished for it. And I did change this to none. I'd rather just advance it manually. I don't need to sit around and watch it count down for me. League settings. I did add several leagues. I added all the leagues you can load up. I loaded them all up. I got the Korean, I got the Dutch, the British League, the 4 independent leagues, and the World Cup of Baseball. I like to be as many leagues as possible. It gives players that couldn't make the minor leagues or couldn't make the major leagues a place to play, and just adds more feel and more realistic ability, especially the World Cup of Baseball. I've never left this on, so I'm curious to see how that plays out. If they have it where it's every year, if it's actually every 4 years, however it works. Although I think they have it where it's every year, because judging by this, they have it next year, which is actually incorrect. They should have it every 4 years, I believe. Is it 2 or 4? It's one of those. I can't remember. I know soccer is 4. I don't know about baseball. But anyway, I do have all the leagues loaded up because I'm doing a new thing with the minor leagues. Last year, by default, all minor leagues had no limit for their rosters, and they also had no service limit for their rosters. Well, this year I'm implementing that in my game to try to keep the rosters, minor league systems, as realistic as possible without overloading teams with 30, 35 guys on each team. League rules. This is where I changed it. I did change the trade frequency to low during the season and very low in the off season. It's to keep the AI from spamming just stupid trades over and over and over, because they will. They'll try to send that 36-year-old bum relief pitcher that's getting paid, $9 million a year and then they want your stud young guys, which of course is it would be a good trade for them if I accept, but I'm not going to. And you don't need to send it every day for 3 straight months. That's I'm hoping that will be cut down. Let's see here. What I did here. So in the AAA, roster limit is 28, but there's no age limit for any of the leagues, except for I think the Dominican Summer League. It's very difficult to find the exact qualifications. I think I've read somewhere that was 24, but here Out of the Park has set it to 22, so I just left it at that. But everything else is correct. But at AAA, the roster limit is 28, and there is no service limit. Then AA, I believe I am in the Eastern League. It's also at 28, and there is no service limit. And here's now all the leagues below is when the service limit starts. So in High A, roster limit is 30, and it's 5 years maximum pro service. And this is accurate. This is actually how it is. It is 30 for a roster. It is 5 years maximum pro service, but technically I think you're allowed to have 2 or 3 players / coaches, like player coaches, that have 6 or more years of experience, or no more than 6 or more. But that's a limited number, so they just set it to 5 here. And this is default, by the way. The 5 years maximum service, that was set in the game. Now, the roster limits I had to change myself. And then you have the Florida State League, also 30 players and 4 years maximum pro service. Then you have your complex leagues. No roster limit. These do not have a roster limit. That is in real life and this game. So I'm leaving it as that. But they do have a 3-year maximum pro service, so you can't be in the pros for more than 3 years. And then in Dominican Summer League, it is 35 players for the roster limit. It's also 4 years pro service, and the age is 22. Now, that was default. I don't know if that's the actual age or not. We'll leave it at 22. Hopefully that helps the international prospects be able to actually play. Because nothing sucks more than signing these guys that are supposed to be 5-star potential guys, really good, and they're in my international complex, not playing because they're 20 all across the board. Because that's not how it is in real life. In real life, these guys are playing immediately, and most of them only spend a year before they're sent over to the complex, and then the really good ones quickly rise through the ranks. While the ones that take some time, I think El Juris Montoro from Colorado, I think he spent like 8 or 10 years in the minor, which is ridiculous if you think about it. Like before he got called up, something like that. Because I looked it up one time. I think he first started playing in 2014 in the minors, and I was like, that can't be right. And it is. It was correct. So it's funny to me. These I left the same, as I don't know the rules there. I'll probably change it back to Major League Baseball. Options as usual. I uncheck this. I don't like it to automatically evolve. I like it as is. I like to keep it modern and pretty much play through this way. Only thing I changed here, I did rename the awards to be the proper names: the Silver Slugger Award and Gold Glove Award. It bothers me to read Great Glove when it's Gold Glove, and also Platinum Stick Award or whatever they had it named here. Silver Slugger. So at least the names pop off in my head as what they really are. The rest of them are fine. I don't understand this one. Custom award name. Is that an award? Like what would it be? Can you decide what it does? I don't get it. Anyway, what did I show? Here I changed since now there's roster limits and service limits. I changed the international free agents to be a lot to 240. As there are tons of them in real life. Just not all of them are getting, millions of dollars. Some of them are only getting 15, 20, 25,000 sign-on bonuses. Obviously the elite guys are getting 2, 3, 4, millions of dollars. But plenty of them are only getting hundreds of thousands or even just tens of thousands. International scouting discoveries per team. This was the default this year. They had it set to a lot, 64. I don't know if that was a typo or not, or a accidental coding. I don't know how, because if you remember, usually it's set to, I believe, 16 or 8. So a lot, 64 a year. But I think, again, with the service limits on, it kind of keeps it refreshing. That I'll have to say, I turned this off since I actually have the leagues, and the major league teams are able to buy out contracts. I think for like $250,000. That was the default setting, and I left it at that. And that's it. Nothing else got changed through here. As a manager, I will be controlling everything for the major league club. If you look at major, I'll let the AI handle the development of each player. Let the AI decide on that. I mean, that's why I hired these guys. And aside from the depth charts, player strategy, and player development, I will be controlling everything else for both major league and minor leagues. So the only thing the minor league managers are going to do is they're going to manage the games. But as far as who gets called up to where and what, that will be my decision. Now, the lab, which is a new feature, I'll be in control of that. I left it at 6. I don't know if that's I don't know if you can change it to more than 6 or not, but that's what I left it at. That's a new thing if you're not aware. But development lab, unfortunately, it's only for the off season and spring training. Most of the programs take about 4 to 5 months to complete, and there's no guarantee that it would. The way I plan to use it is to send my active roster players there, because I figure the guys in my minor leagues are still developing as is. Most of them are going to be teenagers or in their early 20s. And things change. Sometimes the random talent change. And depending on how your coaches are able to coach them up and train them. So I don't want to necessarily send a young guy who's developing still with everything potential going up to a development lab when he's already doing that naturally just by being 17 years old and finally getting proper coaching and doing it as a job versus a guy who's already on my active roster who I'm like, man, if you just had your K rate a little higher, or man, I wish you had a little more pop, you'd be a little bit better. Those guys would be the guys I would send. As I think making my active roster better for the season makes more sense than worrying about a 17-year-old that I may or may not even keep, depending on if I want to trade him or if he even develops properly. Who knows? It just doesn't make sense for me to only get 6 slots a year, basically, because it takes 4 to 5 months to complete something. I don't know if I want to spend it on a 17-year-old kid that I might not see the results until he's 20, 22, if he's even playing for me. So that's my take on it. I don't know how you plan to do it, but I plan to send my guys who are actually on my active roster to it. But anyway, let's take a look at my front office. So budget. So being the New York Mets, one thing about the New York Mets, which is something I'm not used to, is I will have tons of money. As the market is huge, the fan loyalty is there, the fan interest is there, and my owner is willing to spend money. Budget is currently tied for 5th most, and the payroll is still top 5, despite being kind of an team. If you look at it, last season finished a disappointing 75-87. After the year before was 101-61, so you went 100 games down to winning only 75. So that's quite a big drop off there. Now let's see what this owner would like me to do. So this season, he wants me to play around 500 ball. I think the team still has enough talent to play at least 500 ball, and hopefully with me micromanaging, we can keep it at 500. Acquire a power hitter. Is Peter Alonso not a powerful enough hitter? Kind of a confusing thing here. It says no progress, which is I don't know what this is going to base it off of. Like how many home runs a player hits or what. I'm not really sure what I guess we'll find out together. Find a top prospect that's top 20. Currently, I have Jet Williams, who's ranked number 40 in all of baseball, and I think he's only like in Double-A or whatever he is. So he's plenty of time to shoot up those rankings to a top 20. Build my farm to a top 6. I'm always into building my farm system, as I think you want to have a good farm. I would like to have a good organization, top to bottom. So that's pretty easy. And then improve fan interest. It's currently 67, was 67. Again, this gets better when you get better. This is really easy to do. Well, not easy to do. Obviously, win more games, sign high-profile players. The fans will be more interested. And, of course, long-term goal is make the playoffs, and I think that's pretty much anyone's goal. I haven't looked at the salaries yet. So, wow. Now, is Francisco Lindor worth this much money? I say yes, because I like the fact that he is an absolute defensive stud, and he's good offensively. So, yes, it's a lot of money, and yeah, we're stuck with him for a long time, but if he can keep playing defense, even at an old age at a high level, I think it's definitely worth it. Peter Alonso in his last year, they're paying a lot of guys a lot of money. Jeez. Brandon Nimmo's tied up for $20 million. Sterling Marte's tied up for nearly $20 million. Edwin Diaz, worth the money, I think. Although, in my personal opinion, a lot of these guys are definitely worth the money. I think they're good enough. It's just, I've never played as a team that can afford so many players making so much money, and then I'm okay with it. I did purge the entire staff and hired all brand new guys up and down throughout my entire organization. I do get 2 Dominican Summer League teams. I get the Mets 1 and Mets 2. So I like that. Gives me more prospects to sift through and play. So hopefully we can find more players that can someday make it up to the Major League club. As always, my thing is to sign a scout who is highly favored as tools. I think that's the most accurate way to scout players, as you get their true potential based off of their actual tools, rather than just how they're doing in stat-wise. That's it there. And player development set right now at 13.5. I would like to eventually get that up to 36 million, as that is the recommended maximum benchmark for a player or for the player development. And I would like to, obviously, especially with the new development thing coming out, I would like to spend as much money on it as possible so I can build a good team farm system as possible. Now, I'll leave my draft budget and international free agent budget to 0 during the season. Draft budget, I always leave at 0, because come draft time, as long as you have money available, you can still you can sign the players. It's not that big of a deal. It's not going to hurt you. So instead of tying it up here, because once you put it here, it ties it up. So if I put 8.9 here, I would have almost $9 million tied up. So if you look at my finances, I would technically be in the negative. It'll look bad, but by not tying it up, I have money available. Same thing with the free agent budget. Like I don't sign anybody till this January 15th. That's like 9 months from now. What's the point of tying up $5 million when I could just change it in the off season right before we do it? It just doesn't make sense to tie up my money. It's kind of a waste, in my opinion. Scouting is set it to $9 million. That is the minimum. So I try to at least do the minimum for the league's sake. And as usual, Major League gets the least at 8, minor league gets the second least at 20, and then amateur at 32 and international at 40. Because this is where we're going to get the bulk of our players, right here. This is how we're going to be building our team. Scouting amateurs and internationals and trying to get the best guys in. And hope we can develop them, which is why I hired I spent a lot of money on my staff. Spent a lot of money on my staff, as you can see here. A lot of these guys are making a lot of money because I want to bring in the best staff possible. So that's that. Now, let's move on to the team, which is what I'm most excited for, as I do like. This team isn't, it's not terrible. It's not necessarily great. So my philosophy this year is to, on the pitching side, I am looking for guys who have really good control, good movement, and then strikeout stuff being kind of the last thing I care about. I don't want to walk guys, and I want to be able to throw strikes, and I don't want to give up any home runs. I don't want to give up too many runs. I don't want to give up free runs, and I want to play good defense. So my lineup situation is a little different than how I normally approach it. I still pick offense if I can, but defensively, I make sure the guys are proficient at that position. I'm trying to avoid putting in guys who are still learning the position. That's what spring training is for. Maybe on some rare occasions, I got to put a guy in there. But for the most part, I want a person who's proficient at third base playing third base, or proficient playing left field playing left field, not guys who are brand new to the position. So it's kind of how I'm doing it now, balancing out with still offense in mind, but definitely defensive oriented. Because with my pitchers being more or less strikeout artists and more into actually putting the ball into play, I want to make sure my defense is capable of handling that. So saying that, let's take a look at our pitching staff. Let's start with our number one starter and our opening day guy. It's going to be Sean Manaea. Looks like last year he played for San Francisco. Pretty crappy ERA, 4.44. Usually ERAs if you have an ERA that's in less than 3, you're doing excellent. If your ERA is within 3 and 4, you're one of the better guys in the league. If it's between 4 and 5, you're average. If it's between 5 and 6, you're doing pretty bad. And if it's 6 and up, you're doing real bad, and you should probably be either A, let go, or B, sent down to a lower league. That's kind of how it goes. So last year, even though he's our number one starter, because I do like his control and his home run, his movement, and he can still strike guys out. So he's actually a good pitcher. Even though he had an average ERA last year before, he's kind of having a hard time settling in, as you can see here. Oakland, San Diego, and San Francisco last year, so playing for different teams every single year. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on. I do like him. I think he's a good overall pitcher. He should be able to strike guys out, keep the ball, keep guys off base, or not give away free passes, and really not give up too many home runs or anything like that. Solid 3 pitches, including a devastating fastball. Not extremely fast, but a really good one, so he probably pinpoints it, hence the control. And he's got a good changeup to go along with it, so that's fastball, changeup combo, plus a slider. So a good 3-pitch mix there. Breaking ball, fastball, and the changeup combo. 3 pitches, looks like that's all he needs. I wonder if you could add one more pitch to him and make his arsenal really good. But anyway, so he's not bad. 32 years old. We got him for $14.5 million. Oh, sorry. Wow. My throat's really bothering me. Yeah, that's what she said. But anyway. Hopefully he does better for us. More like this. This is a pretty good year in Oakland that he had. If he could do something like that, that'll be a little better. Historically, what is his walks per 9? Last year was a pretty bad year. That's our number 1 starter. Our number 2 starter is Jose Quintana, 35-year-old veteran. Another guy making tons of money. How did he do for us last year? Didn't play a lot. Must have been hurt. But a good, in his small sample size, considering he's a starter, that's a good ERA. 3.57. That is something I can live with. That's something I can. If you can repeat that this year, that's more than fine. That's a respectable ERA at a good level. He's going to be a kind of guy that we're going to rely on playing defense. As you can see, he doesn't give up home runs. That's just not what he does. Doesn't really strike out too many guys. But he's not going to walk you. He's not going to give up home runs. But we do have to play defense, which is why, like I said, my philosophy on my lineup has changed a little bit. A number 3 starter is Adrian Hauser. Again, another veteran. Last year, played for Milwaukee. Decent ERA, close, on the better side of an average guy. So once you get to that third guy in your rotation, you could have an average guy, or you could have a slightly above average guy. Is kind of what you're aiming for. I wouldn't. If your first 2 guys are above average and your third guy is hovering around trying to get to above average, then you got a good rotation. Because the 4th and 5th could be young guys, they could be veterans. It's hard to get all 5 guys to be studs. There's only so much money to go around. But he's not bad. He's not bad. But he is 31, so it's not like he's going to get any better. Again, another guy that we're going to rely on playing defense, extreme ground ball. So this is kind of what I'm aiming for. Pitchers that don't give up home runs, that don't walk guys, and that make us play defense. My number 4 pitcher is Luis Severino. Again, another veteran, 30 years old. An all-star back in the late teens. Last year, how did he do last year? Really bad. That's how he did. 6.65 ERA. That's what we're talking about. That's a really bad ERA. And that's in a decent amount of innings, too. So it doesn't look good. We can't have that again. That cannot be the case. He's going to have to definitely improve, and he should. Because statistically, or ratings-wise, he doesn't look that bad. His control is above average. His movement is roughly around average. Stuff's above average. Like, he definitely should be better than 6.65. And then our number 5 starter is Tyler Miguel, a 28-year-old, their youngest pitcher and the guy that we're probably not paying millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. He's not developing. He is what he is. He is a below-average pitcher. All his offerings are combined. Well, they're below average. His ratings, though, are average. So I guess what brings him below average is his actual pitches themselves. They're not that great. Aside from the fastball, none of them are even close to average. They're actually pretty poor. In my opinion, is a borderline starter. More like a long reliever, if anything, because he's just not that good. But unfortunately, we do have some injuries. Even though last year he had an average ERA, 4.7, although it's approaching more of that above average or below average mark. So he's not a long-term player. Eventually, he will be either A, sent down, B, traded, or released, whatever the case may be. So my rotation really isn't that bad if you look at the starters. It's a bunch of guys kind of hovering around average. So we got 4 guys are either average or above average, with 1 guy below average, according to the star ratings. So you could take that however you want to take it. But most of them have decent to good control, decent to good movement. So we'll see what happens here. Now for the exciting part. My closer is Edwin Diaz, arguably the best closer, one of the best closers in all of baseball. Missed last season due to an injury. Out the entire year. But if you can see here, that 1.31 ERA is extremely filthy. That is ridiculously low. even for a reliever. You'll see relievers usually have, or at least the elite relievers will have a lower ERA than their starting pitching counterparts. So it's not unusual always to see relievers with lower ERAs because they do have smaller sample sizes, so they don't have that 200, that 150, 175, the 200 innings pitched where they get blown up more often, and they're not in that often. But the thing with pitchers, though, when you're a reliever and you do have one or two bad outings, and your ERA can quickly spike. But as you can see here, he has done it twice below 2. So hopefully he bounces back and has a 2022 type of season, and hopefully we give him a reason to make saves. I hope we're better than 500. I would like to be better than 500. But he's an absolute stud. Perfect 5 out of 5 rating. He is an elite player. Doesn't give up home runs. Doesn't walk guys either. And strikes out a ton, according to the. This is against major leaguers. This isn't a AAA statistic. This is against major league players. And then our backup closer, secondary closer, is Austin Adams, 32-year-old veteran. I like him as well. Last year, played for Arizona. Not a good ERA. Really, career-wise, not a good ERA here or here. But I like him. I believe in him. I think he can be good. He's got nasty stuff, elite-level stuff. Grades out at perfect. So you figure he should be good. Movement is not as low as you would like, or high as I would like. But it's his strikeout stuff that I really like. So hopefully he doesn't have a 5.71 type of year. And our last high leverage arm is Jake Diekman. Late inning arm, rather. Last year played for the White Sox and Tampa Bay. For the White Sox, he was extremely horrible. Tampa Bay, what a different guy. 2.18 ERA to 7.9. But this is what I mean by you get blown up in 1 or 2 games as a reliever and your ERA gets blown up. Hopefully we get the Tampa Bay version, the 2.18 ERA. Again, he's got really good stuff, good movement. This I could have put him. I was debating whether to put him as my backup closer or as my second setup arm. I ended up putting him as my third setup arm. But he does look good. He could possibly move into that secondary closer role. And then we have just middle relievers. I don't have any long relievers, really, as none of them have the stamina high enough to kind of maintain long relief. So we'll just go in with what we have. Some middle relievers. In no particular order. We have Cole Sulser. A lot of veterans on this team, I've noticed. I'm looking at the roster kind of as you are, really. When I set it up, I wasn't really looking at the age too much. I was just kind of setting guys up. And I think when you load the game up, all rosters are already set up to 26, I think. Or at least that's what I believe. So Cole Sulser, 34-year-old veteran. Decent-looking pitcher. Last year he played for everybody. My goodness, he played in rookie ball a little bit. AAA. Again, terrible ERA, but I think this was kind of a small sample size kind of thing. And he's better than that. Then we have 34-year-old Michael Tonkin. I do like him. Played for Atlanta. Is there anybody for the Mets that played for the Mets last year? Holy crap. There's like no pitcher that pitched for the Mets last year. It's all just brand new random parts brought in. But we have Michael Tonkin, 34-year-old veteran. Average, according to his ERA. Although I think he's better than that. So this might be a little bit unluck, but it's kind of weird considering he played for Atlanta. Because this here is good. I like this. So I think he could improve upon that and be one of my better pitchers out of the bullpen. Jorge Lopez, 31-year-old. another veteran. Again, someone who did not play for us. Played for 3 teams last year. Baltimore, Miami, and Minnesota. Pretty much sucked for all of them. So he was equally terrible everywhere he went. So we got him now for $2 million a year. Hopefully he's not terrible for us. The middle reliever is Adam Ottavino. He looks pretty good. He's a borderline setup arm. He's more of a high leverage, or especially against righties or lefties. You don't really want to put him on with bases loaded already, or guys on first and second, because of his control being pretty bad. He'll end up walking another guy. And he did. Finally, a guy that played for New York last year. Pretty good ERA, 3.21. So this guy's solid. Solid guy with a good ERA. And then our last reliever is Brooks Raley, 35-year-old veteran. Again, another guy that did play for us. Really good ERA at 2.8, and that's in 54 innings, so it's not like he just did that in a small sample size. That's 66 games, 54 innings. That's an elite-level ERA, so looking forward to seeing how he does for us as well. So that's the pitching. It's mostly average dudes, as you can see here. Aside from Edwin Diaz, it's just a collection of average arms, with a lot of them being random that didn't even play for the Mets last year. So far that 500 ball seems like it's possible, unless guys are playing better than their expected ratings. But it's unfortunate that Edwin Diaz is so good, and he may just be kind of a waste. I don't know if I'll trade him or not. Probably not. Anyway, let's go take a look at our lineups. So, this is the overall, my left and right splits, but we're going to focus mainly on my right-hand lineup, since the majority of the pitchers are right-handed. Starting with our leadoff man and shortstop, that's Francisco Lindor. He is, I think, all around a really good player. He's solid. The reason why I have him leading off is the fact that his avoid Ks and his eye are good. So he should be able to either draw walks, shouldn't strike out, should be able to put the ball into play. He's got some pop as well, good contact, bat-to-ball skills. So overall, he's a good hitter, even got gap power as well. So he's a good hitter overall. And he's also dangerous on the base pass. And this is just a bonus, the fact that he's an elite defender, as you can tell here. Even though he hasn't won a Gold Glove since 2019, I do expect that to... Last year was a Silver Slugger. So he's a really good bat. I think he has a chance to be a really good bat for us again. Is there stamina for... How do they decide how tired... Because you see, he played 160 games last year. How do they decide how tired he gets? Because I bet you I won't be able to replicate that. Because they're going to say he's too tired to play. But anyway, as you can see here, he's an outstanding player. Definitely worth the $32 million in my opinion. And he is my leadoff hitter. Well, average drop down. 31 home runs last year. So he's got pop. 31 stolen bases. Wow, 30-30 club. That's pretty cool. 30-30 club there. Our number 2 hitter and our second baseman is Jeff McNeil. I do like Jeff because he is pretty versatile if I do need to move him around if somebody gets tired. Reason why I have him batting second is he's not going to strike out. So he's going to put the ball into play. And that's what we want. We want a guy that he could possibly advance Francisco, although Francisco is also able to steal bases. Now, if he does get on base, let's say Francisco doesn't get on base, he's also capable of stealing and putting himself into scoring position, which is why I try to focus on who can steal bases before I put guys in certain positions. If there's like a tiebreaker between one guy and another. But I do think Jeff is a solid player. Defensively, he's not bad. He can play second. He can play second, and he can play left at a pretty high level. He's still learning third, and he's still learning right field. Although he's never going to be like excellent at either of them. But this is what I mean by I'm trying to focus on putting guys that are good at their position and still capable of performing offensively. It's a fine balance, but I'm trying to do both. Hopefully he has a bounce back here because the year before he was way better. Look at that average, 326 average. That's kind of what I'm expecting. Batting second is somebody who has a high average. If he can replicate 2022, which ironically is when he won his All-Star and Silver Slugger award, we can have a good year. Francisco can repeat himself. He can have a 22 year. Batting third is my center fielder, Brandon Nimmo. I do like him. Overall, I think he's just a really good, solid hitter. Just should be, and he's been solid for the last 3 years. As you can see, his OPS is in the 800s, which is good. That is good. Most guys are going to bat in the 700 OPS. If you're batting in the 800s, you're obviously above average. If you're batting in the 900s and plus, you're elite level. Last season, I think like Acuna, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. Those are the guys at the top of my head that I could think of who are batting with like nearly 1,000 or more OPS. So those are elite of the elite. And he's definitely above average. So batting third here is nice. He's probably one of my better hitters overall. And he's a good center fielder, as you can see here. He's got excellent range, good air. Not the strongest arm, but we're not paying him for his arm. Our cleanup batter is probably one of the best power hitters in the league right now. And that's our first baseman, Pete Alonso. As you can see, his home runs wise, 37, back-to-back 40 homer seasons. I don't expect that to change too much. One of the better hitters in the league. Oh, he's Rookie of the Year back in 2019. Cool. Sorry. But he should definitely continue this trend of hitting tons of home runs. And that's just what he is. Home run hitter. Look at that power, 65. That is in a really good range. Our number 5 is our DH, Francisco Alvarez. Kind of a really disappointing first 2 seasons as far as the average is concerned. He's not able to avoid the strikeouts or really draw the walks that you would expect him to draw with such a potential power guy. And this is what I mean by development lab. He would be a guy that I would want to send to try to work on something here. We would try to get him to work on his strikeout rate so he'll stop striking out so much and get his average higher. Because his average, I mean, it's never going to be high because it was even 250 at the AAA level. But at least he was mashing home runs more. But last year he hit 25 home runs despite only batting 209. So that tells you that the potential is there. If he can just get the ball, strike out less, and at least get the bat to the ball more often, you don't always have to hit a home run. Doubles are okay too. But just get that average up to much better than 209. Like 250 is the minimum you want to sit at. Because he's not an elite catcher either. So he's definitely a home run. You're relying more on his offense than you are on his defense. But he's only 22, so he has plenty of time to develop and become a better player. At number 6, and our catcher is Omar Narvaez. He is a good catcher. And also, if you see here, catching, they included blocking and framing. It's no longer just catcher ability / arm. You now have 3. So I think now catchers are a little more important, especially their blocking and framing rate. Although he's not a good offensive player, as you can see here. He struggled year before and last year. So offensively, he's terrible, but defensively, he's good. So if he can just have, I would like to have him obviously bat better than 580. That's bad because, like I said, 700 is average. A lot of you guys, and then below average, you got the 600s. And if you're batting in the 500s, you're doing pretty darn bad. If you're batting in the 500s, you're doing pretty bad. 700 average, below average, and then bad. Just like the ERA, where between 4 and 5 is average, 5 and 6 is below average, and then 6 is bad. So OPS in the 500s is pretty bad because you're pretty much low all across the board. You're not getting on base. You're not hitting. You're not really putting the ball into play, and you're not really slugging. So you're kind of just useless. But defensively, he is good. He should be a little better. So I'm hoping that this is just kind of waiting. Like if he could play like this, even though it's all the way down in high A, and he was obviously a major leaguer, we'd like to see that. Or even like this. This was in AAA not that long ago, 875. I think the potential is there. At number 7, our right fielder, Sterling Marte. Even though I don't really like him at right field, I don't think he's truly built for right field. It's where it says he should be, so we'll leave him there. I think really he's a left fielder. I think he was a left fielder. This for me is confusing. He's obviously played left field, yet somehow he doesn't have left field as a position. So go figure. That's weird to me. He had quite of a down year last year. OPS was in a 625, so that's well below average, or below average at least. Considering he was above average the year before, 814. So we're hoping he reverts back to his above average days. It's kind of a theme on this team, if you've noticed. We got a lot of guys that either had bad seasons or just aren't playing up to their full potential. I do like this. He's actually dangerous. And batting number 8 is third baseman Mark Vientos. Young kid, 24 years old. Mainly here because he's got some power. This is probably where our weakness is, third base. Kind of like Brett Batty, if he could just mimic what he does in AAA, or even get close, like he's hitting nearly 1,000 OPS in AAA, and he's well below average in the majors. And again, AAA, nearly elite level, but terrible at majors. So it's just like he's obviously got the skill level. It's just getting it to click and play correctly and getting it to actually work. But he's a guy that, if he can just get it to work, would be a much better team. And batting number 9 is our left fielder, Tyrone Taylor. Last year played for Milwaukee. Average player last year, hitting in the 713, and the year before 728. So he's an average. So if he can hit roughly average, that's fine. Because I think defensively he's absolutely amazing, especially for left field. He's got range. He's not going to screw up too much, and he's got a decent little arm. So for a left fielder, this is phenomenal. This is possibly a Gold Glove kind of left fielder, and he's got good gap power though, really good gap power, and he's dangerous on the base. So coming out of that 9-hole spot, he's here to protect Francisco Lindor. That's his job. Let's make sure that Lindor has somebody that's not just a dud before we get back to the leadoff guy. And then who here? I believe is Luke Voigt. Yes, Luke Voigt is the DH over here versus lefties. He's a bench bat, so he's only coming in against lefties. Nothing exciting about him. Last year was a terrible season for him. A year he'll hopefully can forget. If he can just hit average like he did before, he's more of a lefty guy, so maybe he's never played over 100 games, so he's a straight up platoon guy. And let's see where our backups are, so our bench our subs. We have left fielder Trace Thompson. I do like him. The fact that he can play pretty much any outfield position, so injuries aren't too scary. and he's able to play them all pretty darn good. And he works hard and he's intelligent, so that's cool. And he's a good locker room guy. Nice to see that we have a locker room guy. Veteran, making very little money, but is capable of playing every position in the outfield, so I can easily swap guys in and out. Then we have another first baseman, which I noticed that the Mets are heavy on as first baseman. It's Dong-Hook Lee. I have no idea how to pronounce Korean names, so sorry if I said that incorrectly. Again, not really too thrilled to have another first baseman. Definitely wouldn't surprise me if I move on from somebody at first base to make room for a more useful position. Because our last bench bat is a second baseman, Joey Wendell, another veteran who can play second, third, or short. So he can play all the infield positions, which is awesome. So really, we as far as the bench is concerned, we're definitely all set. Maybe move him on and get another utility player overall, because he's just not that good. And that's the team. Oh, top prospects. As always, let's take a look at our top prospects. All players. Oh, Jet, how did you get hurt already? But anyway, so we have 6 guys currently that I consider my top prospects. All batters, actually. No one, mostly outfielders. No pitchers yet. Let's get that better. So, third baseman, we have Brett Baty. I spoke about him earlier. He's one of those guys where it's very confusing because you can see he mashes. AAA, over 1,000 OPS. AAA, 825 OPS. AA, 950. But then in the major leagues, he struggles, and he's been doing it now for 2 years in a row. He has the tools. He's just not. And I would love for him to become better. Because I like him at third base. I think he's an excellent third baseman. He's got the arm strength that you look for. He's just for some reason it's not clicking on the offensive side. And then we have a left fielder, Luis Angel Acuna. That is in fact Ronald Acuna's little brother, if you were wondering. Although he doesn't look like he's going to be as good as him, but he's a real talented player. Depending on who I have available, they have him set for shortstop. I went ahead and moved him to left field. I think that will be his permanent home when he makes it up to the Major League Baseball, to the Mets. I think he'll either play in left. I could stick him at center and not be too sad about it. I can also stick him in right. I think he's capable of playing every outfield position. But left would be his more ideal home, in my opinion. And then we have a couple of center fielders. One is not really a prospect. It's just Harrison Bader. But I want to keep an eye on him. He's obviously a stud center fielder. He can play any outfield, obviously. But leaving him just at center field makes plenty of sense. Gold Glove winner not that long ago. But we got him on a minor league deal for now. And then we have a Drew Gilbert in AA. He's also a really good looking center fielder. Again, another guy who could play any outfield spot, and I wouldn't feel too bad putting him there. So one thing we have going for us is we have outfielders so potentially our outfield in the Major League club is going to look really good with all these guys coming up. It's just a matter of waiting for them to become good. And then we have a couple of right fielders. I have one in AA, Jet Williams. I think my best prospect currently. He's got a phenomenal arm. That's why I put him in right field. They had him at second base and shortstop. I think he's going to be better in the outfield than he is in the infield. And that's why I moved him out to right field. But, he's a fast one. Look at this. I love seeing this. because this just it plays into my style. If he can be a good offensive player and be able to be dangerous on the base pass and be a good defender, you just add so much value. And he's adding more value by already having some skill here, which is pretty nice. And then our other right fielder, who is currently in high, is Ryan Clifford. First, left, right. He's not as good as the other guys as far as his capabilities in the outfield, but he is good enough to play currently sitting here at high A. So our outfielders is what's cooking. Looking at what 1, 2, 3, 4 true outfielders, which is nice because you got 3 guys that will start, and they got 1 guy that can kind of rotate for the guys that get hurt or injured, or tired. So not a bad group of guys here. Would like to kind of diversify it a little more, have more positions. Really would like to have them all covered. Would like to have some pitchers as well. But that's it. That is my team. I'm looking forward to trying to make this team live up to its expectations. Who knows? Perhaps we could do it this year and surprise everybody and be the Arizona Diamondbacks. Although when you have a 4th highest payroll, is it really considered a surprise? So we'll find out. So stick around, and we'll see you at the end of April.